好，2014年嘅第5條題目啦，就係有關於生態系統嘅。今次嘅主題咧係演替。喺一個研究入面咧，咁有一笪地方就俾火燒咗。咁喺之後啦，我哋咧就觀察下喺呢個地方上面嘅植物種類嘅變化。咁我哋有2款嘅植物，一款咧就係草本植物，另一款咧就係木本植物。呢幅圖就係想表達翻喺呢100年入面啦，究竟草本植物同埋木本植物咧，佢哋覆蓋呢個地方嘅百分比嘅變化。咁呢個演替就係講緊啦，由一個山火燒盡嘅地方，跟住慢慢咧又生翻啲新嘅芽出嚟啦。咁啊書本都有啦，左邊呢幅圖咧就係俾火燒咗嘅一個山頭啦。咁跟住之後咧就有啲小草咧就生翻出嚟啦。咁 A part 就問我哋啦，呢個係乜嘢嘅演替咧？咁自不然就係考我哋啦，分唔分得清咩叫做原生演替，咩叫次生演替？根據我哋學過嘅嘢咧，原生演替就係講緊當初嗰個地方係冇任何生物、冇任何泥土嘅，而次生演替咧就係嗰個地方咧本身係有生物曾經存在過，但係而家係荒廢咗，山火就係呢個情況啦。所以答案咧就係次生演替。咁啊，因為喺呢個情況底下咧，一笪地方係受到一個嚴重嘅干擾，就係山火。喺幅圖我哋都見得到咧，有一個群落嘅復原啊 ，restoration。而 Part B1 咧就要我哋利用呢幅圖去描述一下，經過咗山火之後嘅呢8年時間，究竟個植物嘅優勢群組嘅變化係點樣呢？今次淨係叫你描述啫，冇問你點解嘅。呢條題目最重要考我哋嘅就係咩叫優勢群落。咁啊，植物今次我哋有2款啦，草本同埋木本。咁究竟啦喺呢個地方，究竟邊一款嘅植物係較為有優勢呢？而所謂嘅優勢就係佢能夠霸佔到大啲嘅地方，越係常見嘅一啲生物啦。而呢條題目啦，要考我哋嘅就係描述嘅技巧啦。第一啦，我哋就要描述下呢棵植物佢喺呢個地方佢霸佔嘅覆蓋嘅百分比嘅變化啦。而第二啦，就真係用翻啲數字啦。而最重要嘅就係第3年。第3年之前，我哋會發現啦，草本植物咧，佢係霸佔嘅地方係多一啲嘅，多過木本植物嘅。但係3年之後咧，你會見到木本植物咧係霸佔嘅地方啊，覆蓋嘅地方咧係比起草本係為之多嘅。咁所以你會發現啦，草本植物咧去到佢高峰之後咧，就慢慢下降。而木本植物咧就係漸漸上升，亦都喺第3年咧，亦都超越咗草本植物啦。由0去到第3年咧，就係草本植物係優勢嘅群落、優勢嘅植物；由第3年去到第8年咧，就係木本植物就係優勢嘅植物啦。咁好多同學咧佢衰咧就係衰在佢唔係寫由0去3啊。佢係由1去咗3啊，咁啊因為咧講得好順口啊嘛，頭3年咪即係叫做1、2、3、3年咯。但係其實咧係由着火嗰一刻起，我哋就當第0日去計，由第0日去到第3年。咁所以如果你真係要計嘅話咧，應該係由第0年去到第3年嘅。跟住啦就到第2條啦，就要我哋解釋一下呢個優勢群落嘅變化。咁頭先就叫你描述啫，而家就要你解釋下點解會有咁樣嘅變化啦。咁所以你會發現咧 B1 同埋 B2 咧可以合埋一齊當一條咁樣出嘅。咁今次就唔會係4分咯，就變成6分咯。因為頭先 B1 咧係2分，加埋呢度嘅4分。咁呢條題目咧就可能變咗做 Explain the changes in the dominant community 啦，要你解釋優勢群落的變化。好，咁呢度啦，你就要講翻啦，究竟草本同埋木本植物啦，佢哋嗰個大細有咩嘅分別呢？第二啦，你就要去指出翻草本同埋木本植物，佢哋生存喺同一個生境底下，佢哋會有啲咩嘅互動呢？而第3啦，就係一棵植物究竟需要啲乜嘢去賴以生存呢？而今次要考我哋嘅技能呢，就係解釋啦。頭先喺 B 一 part 咧，我哋已經知道噶啦，草本植物就係0到3年嘅王者，而木本植物咧就係3到8年嘅王者。首先你要講咗呢一句啦。然後啦，就要去解釋下點解當初係草本植物生得較為快，從而啦就變成一個優勢嘅群落、優勢嘅植物。而之後就要解釋下點解3到8年呢，就係木本植物又會生得快啲，而成為一個優勢嘅植物。好，咁我哋而家睇下成個故事係點樣發生咯。一開始啦，即使有山火，但係喺泥土以下嘅一啲繁殖器官或者係種子，佢哋係冇受到損壞嘅。咁所以小草呢啲生物呢，當一個適當嘅環境，有翻雨水，有翻適當溫度底下呢，草本嘅植物就會發芽而生長得好快。但係木本植物相對上啦，你又要由個芽再發展成棵樹呢，的確需要時間嘅。就係喺呢1、2、3、4，就係喺呢一段嘅時間底下，草本嘅生物由於冇人同佢競爭，所以佢就越生越快，越生越多，就形成優勢嘅群落。 但係木本植物就唔同啦，佢哋需要時間去成長。但係當佢成長越嚟越高嘅時候，佢就有機會遮蓋咗草本植物嘅陽光。當佢生得高嘅時候，就會形成一個樹蔭，樹蔭就會遮擋咗啲陽光，令到草本植物吸唔到足夠嘅陽光。同一個情況，今次題目冇講到嘅，其實你都可以講嘅就係木本植物嘅根比起草本植物嘅根咧，佢生得更加深、更加廣，佢吸水啊、吸礦物質啊，其實佢哋都係較為優勝嘅。咁你會發現啦，草本植物佢又唔會話輸到死晒嘅，佢都仍然能夠適應到呢個空間去生存嘅，所以啦，佢就只係慢慢跌咗，而唔係咧完全俾人撳到零嘅。呢度梁 Sir 想提翻嘅咧，就係成個 Part B， 其實就係考緊我哋有關於生態演替嘅精髓。呢度牽涉咗兩個詞語，一個係演變，一個係更替，加埋就叫做演替。咩叫演變啊？就喺成個生境，佢嗰個環境係會變化緊嘅，而佢嗰個物種咧係會有個更替，有個取代嘅。咁所以啦，喺整個演替嘅過程當中，生物漸漸改變環境。喺今次嘅情況，我哋會發現成個故事就由小草慢慢生上嚟。大家當初都咁矮噶，冇乜問題嘅，大家咪吸嘅咁嘅陽光咯，吸嘅咪咁嘅水分、礦物質咯。但係漸漸有大樹嘅出現啦，佢形成一個樹蔭底下咧，就會令到嗰個生境嘅某一個位置，佢嗰個照落地下嘅光度係咪會減少咗啊？生物漸漸改變環境，令到環境越嚟越適合其他物種生存，尤其是係佢自己。所以棵木本嘅植物係會慢慢取代咗啲草本嘅植物。佢夠大棵啊嘛，遮住啲陽光，吸水又吸得勁過你啊嘛，佢咪會贏咗你咯。所以你會發現啊，喺棵大樹底下咧，通常係較為少一啲小草嘅，但係喺個樹蔭外面咧，佢就有翻多一啲嘅小草噶啦。但係同樣情況未完喎，當有個樹蔭底下啦，當個樹蔭出現咗嘅時候啦，會唔會出現咗啲昆蟲啊、雀仔啊喺度棲息呢？係嘛？所以佢就吸引啲新嘅物種。而木本植物佢自己亦都會慢慢取代咗原來嘅物種，呢個就叫做演變同埋更替。之前梁 Sir 都拍咗段片咧，專係講演替嘅，咁啊未睇嘅咧就快快睇翻啦。呢段片咧係能夠幫你極速掌握翻原生演替同埋次生演替嘅精髓嘅。好，又嚟到一點出發嘅時間啦。今次條題目咧就係問演替嘅，咁啊唔難理解啦，一定係會問翻你演替嘅類型啦，原生演替同埋次生演替。下次梗係問下你個比較啦。有冇先鋒嘅群落啊？佢哋要用長啲嘅時間定係短啲嘅時間去發展成為一個頂級嘅群落啊？條可以係一條4分嘅題目嚟噶啦，再加埋下面呢一部分就會變成一條 essay 噶啦。同演替嘅另一個概念呢，我哋就要學識咩叫優勢群落。優勢群落就即係話啦，喺成個演替當中，我哋嘅物種嘅數量啦、物種嘅類型啦，亦都會有個變化嘅。而當中啦，亦都有一啲優勢嘅物種出現咗，咁佢哋漸漸就會形成一個優勢嘅群落啦。而當中啦，牽涉嘅概念就係適應。點解你會被取代？點解你能夠取而代之？呢個你要學識理解嘅。而當中就牽涉唔同嘅互動啦、競爭啦。用植物嚟講好簡單嘅啫，競爭陽光、競爭水分、競爭礦物質、競爭生存嘅地方，呢個就係幫我哋去理解翻優勢群落點解會贏啦。而呢個題目有得繼續引申落去問我哋嘅呢，就係生態研習啦。其實呢幅圖正正就係生態研習嚟噶嘛，不過佢今次就唔似上次嗰條咁樣要擺條 transet line， 跟住再擺翻啲 quadrat 喺度啫嘛。今次就係研究下啦，係隨住時間過去，唔同物種咧嗰個覆蓋率嘅變化。咁所以呢一樣嘢大家都要明白到啦，生物嘅多樣性唔係淨係得一款生物噶，仲係越嚟越多噶。嗰種啦，個物種嘅風度啦，越嚟越多物種啦，又或者啦，唔同物種之間嘅相對風度，亦即係去解釋翻咩叫優勢群落啦 concept 咧，大家都係要溫嘅。2014 question 5 is about the ecosystem, and the main topic is ecological succession. To study, a plot of land was burned by fire. After this, the vegetation of this land classified into herbs and woody plants was monitored for 8 years. So you can find the pictures from the textbook. A hillside after a hill fire, and the grass start to grow on the burnt area. So in this graph, you can see that along the time from year 0 to year 8, the percentage cover of each type of vegetation. For part A, which type of succession is shown in the above case? and explain your answer. So for this question, it asks us to distinguish primary succession from the secondary succession. From the textbook, we have already learned it. The fundamental concept is that primary succession, in the area there is no soil and no organism were present before. But in the secondary succession, in the area, the organism, they were once present. According to this definition, we know that this case is the secondary succession because it involves the restoration of the community of the herbs and the woody plants after a major disturbance, that's the hill fire. For part 1, describe briefly how the dominant community of vegetation changes with time after the fire. So for this question, is checking the concept about dominant community. So in the book, we talk about the dominant species are the species in the community that exert strong control over the composition and diversity of the community. In this case, we refer to the percentage cover. And for this part, it checks us the critical skills. We need to describe the data. And so we need to describe the changes of the mean percentage cover and use the data to support our answer. And the critical time is the 3rd year. So we can see that for the first 3 years, the mean percentage cover of the herbs is larger than that of the woody plant. From the 3rd year to the 8th year, so the mean percentage cover of the woody plant is higher than that of the herbs. So you can see from the graph, when the percentage cover of the herbs reach the peak, it drops gradually. And for the woody plants, the percentage cover, it increases gradually. So you can see that from year 0 to year 3, not year 1 to year 3, year 0 to year 3, herbs are the dominant vegetation. And from year 3 to year 8, the woody plants are the dominant vegetation. And for part B2, explain the changes in the dominant community described in part 1. So you can see that part B1 is about description, part B2 is about explanation. So we can combine these two questions together to make a 6 marks question. So for this question, it asks you to recall the size difference between the herbs and the woody plant. Surely the herbs, they are much smaller than the woody plants. And then we need to recall the ecological interaction between the different organisms in the same habitat. And what do the plants need for survival? So for this part, it asks us to do the explanation. For the scaffolding, from the part B1, we see the changes in the dominant community. And then we need to explain why do the herbs grow faster at the beginning and become the dominant vegetation. And then we need to explain why do the woody plants grow faster and become the dominant vegetation from the 3rd year to the 8th year. It's a whole story. First of all, underground vegetative organs and seed, they were not damaged in the fire. So that's why the herbs, they can gradually germinate and grow faster than the woody plants. Therefore, the percentage cover of the herbs increased rapidly at first and become the dominant vegetation in the first 3 years. And for the woody plant, they also germinate, they also grow, but it takes time. However, when they grow taller and taller, we overshadow the herbs or outcompete the herbs for the light. So that's why they can replace the herbs as the dominant vegetation. And apart from the light, you can also mention about the root system of the woody plant. They can grow deeper and then they can absorb more water and minerals than the herbs. You can see from the graph, there is no such case for the exclusive competition. The herbs population or the percentage cover is really dropping, yes, but it's not dropping to 0. For part B, actually it checks you the concept about the ecological succession. Actually, what does it mean, the succession? There are two processes: transition, that means a change, and replacement. So you can see that in the process of ecological succession, organisms modify their environment in ways that allow other species to come in and replace them. So the process repeats and the species diversity progressively increases as more and more species appear in the community. So in this case, we can see the transition, changing of the environment. The basic idea is that when the woody plant, they grow taller and taller, there will be a shadow around them. Therefore, we can observe that there are not that many herbs growing under the shadow of the woody plant. Meanwhile, after there is a shadow, we will also attract some insect or some birds growing around this area. And for the replacement, you can see the idea that when the woody plant, they grow taller and somehow they replace the herbs to become the dominant community, dominant vegetation. And you can watch this video about the ecological succession. So let's talk about the curriculum mapping in this question. It starts from the succession. And when we talk about the succession, surely we need to talk about different types of the succession, primary and the secondary succession. And of course, it can ask you to compare these two types of succession. For example, any pioneer community, how long is the time to reach the climax community? That's the basic concept you need to know. Could be a 4 marks question. And with the second part, it could be an essay question. When we talk about the succession, we need to talk about the dominant community. Why are they the dominant community? And why do some other species lose in this interaction? So you need to talk about the adaptation. How can they adapt this environment? Are they taller? Are they bearing more leaves? Do they have the vascular tissues? Something like this. And then you need to talk about the interaction, maybe the competition. And if we talk about the animal, we talk about the predation, something like this. So you also need to get familiar with the ecological interaction. This question, it is a ecological study. Along the time, what is the change of the mean percentage cover of a particular area? Though this question is not talking about using the transect line and the quotient, measure the distribution and the abundance of the species in the particular area. We are analyzing along the time, what is the change of the mean percentage cover. We need to talk about the biodiversity. For the species richness, the number of species in this particular area, and while we need to study the relative abundance of different species to talk about the dominant community.